Colossians 2:8 says, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." So Colossians 2:8, we're going to look at the word rudiment. And it might surprise you about the word here. It's G4747. And it stands for, of course, element, principle. Let's go down here and we start talking about the elements from which all things have come, the material cause of the universe, the heavenly bodies, either as parts of the heaven or as others think, because in them the elements of man, life, and destiny were supposed to reside. The elements, rudiments, primarily and fundamentally principles of any art, science, or discipline. So, of course, here we're seeing that in ancient times, the Greek word G4747 was for knowledge and creation. The Hellenistic philosophy, aka the first principles, were taught as spirits, aka cosmic rulers, along with their other astral bodies. One of the basic tenets of astrology is movements of gods above and the alterations that happen on the earth. So Paul was exposing the astrology beliefs. So Colossians 2:15 says, "And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it." And then he goes on in verse 18 to take away the worship of angels. "Let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshipping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind." Then verse 20 through 22, "Wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances, touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men?" So it's very evident that Gnostics were around the town, and what the book of Colossians was also exposing, because we see that there's actually a Greek word, G1108, and we see this is where they get the word Gnostic. Now, just because we see it in the Bible does not mean it's for Gnostic beliefs, but it's attached to knowledge and science. So when we see here, a lot of the theories of the Gnostics is cosmology, theories about salvation. They accept dualism between spirit and matter, aka God or world. And the teachings that they teach that they are separate from God by a number of cosmic spheres, usually 7, that are ruled by spiritual rulers and principalities and powers, and that they must penetrate this with knowledge so that they have access to heaven. Hence why they think knowledge is what gets you there, which is false, because only Christ gets you to heaven. We also see that this epistle calls out the Hellenistic Judaism. In verse 11 it says, "In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, and putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ." So let's also go to verse 16, where it says, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days." Now we'll jump to verse 18. "Let no man beguile you of your reward in voluntary humility and worship of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind." Now, see, the answer to all of this is to turn from it and follow Christ. And actually, we're going to get this from the first chapter. Chapter 1, verse 15 through 20, it says, "Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible. Whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. And having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things unto himself. By him, I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven." We also see verse 14 and 15, it puts away all this, blotting out the handwriting ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. So there is a danger to false teachings. And some of these teachings, like the Hellenistic Judaism or Gnostic beliefs that wisdom's going to get you there, or legalism's going to get you there, it kills you spiritually, and you're only going to be freed by Jesus Christ. Keep your eyes on the prize, Jesus Christ. Let your light so shine that you shine through the darkness like the lighthouse that is above me.